Bouman, team leader of Luke Bouman Real Estate Team. I am joined with Eli Paquette. He is the retired Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard here in Holland, and I wanted to teach you guys a little bit about what the Coast Guard does. So Eli, first, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Luke.
And tell us a little bit about what the Coast Guard does here in Holland for us.
So as you can see, right on Lake Macatawa specifically, the Coast Guard's responsible for search and rescue, federal law enforcement. They don't enforce any state laws. So you see the sheriff's boat, they're enforcing state laws. The Coast Guard does federal. And then every aids to navigation that you see that's red and green, the Coast Guard's responsible for placing and maintaining.
Okay. And are they out on days like today, or is it only on, summer days?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, the Coast Guard's out there on all days, and the windier and the rainier, the better.
We got a windy day today.
Absolutely.
So maybe some boating tips, safety tips. Do you have any that you can share?
Yeah, sure do, Luke. So especially our residents on Lake Macatawa, we want to make sure that all boaters are leaving a family member with their sail plan. So if you and I are going out boating, I'm going to call my wife and say, me and Luke are going to go out fishing.
Yeah.
Here's where we're leaving out of. Here's where we're going to be at. And here's around what time we're going to be back. That way, if you're not and something goes bad, at least there's a family member that knows, I need to call somebody because Luke and Eli aren't back yet. The other thing we like to talk about is carriage requirements for each boat. It's crucial that you have the right safety gear for your vessel, and that law changes with the size of your vessel. So it's imperative that you look it up on Google. You can just Google 18-foot boat federal requirements, and it'll tell you how many life jackets you need and the carriage requirements.
Because I have 5-year-old twins, they've had some sort of swimmer things that I thought were approvable, and then I think we got pulled over. My dad got pulled over. What are some rules there? Is that just stuff you can find online?
It is. So the life jackets have to say U.S. Coast Guard approved.
Okay.
And if they don't say that, then the Coast Guard's not accepting them in their examination of your vessel.
Yeah.
So sometimes we have our brothers and sisters from across the pond in Canada, and it doesn't say U.S. Coast Guard approved, and so they get dinged on them a little bit. Just make sure they say U.S. Coast Guard approved, and you should be all set.
Do you have any safety tips for, I know we don't have snow now, but when the winter was here and there's ice, is it just stay off the ice completely, or is?
Absolutely. The Coast Guard stance is no ice is safe ice, but we understand that people like to enjoy their outdoor sports, so we just ask that, hey, listen, if you're going to be out on the ice, again, make sure you call somebody, let them know where you're going to be, make sure you're dressed for it, and make sure you got some key safety equipment with you. Ice-alls maybe, good traction on your boots, because we're not just worried about you going under the ice, we're worried about you slipping, bumping your head, being knocked out, and bring a buddy, right? I mean, me and you are going to go ice fishing, we're together, and we have a safety plan. So it's always great to have a safety plan when you're out on the ice.
No, that's a good tip. Before we started, you had mentioned kayaks. You have some tips for when you're using kayaks? You come across that a lot?
Sure. So the folks on Lake Macatawa, they enjoy their paddleboard sports and their kayaking sports, and so do I. And occasionally we get winds like this. The kayaks seem to drift off the beach and then they're lost, and the Coast Guard's spending a lot of resources and money to find a possible body in the water.
Yeah.
The best thing you can do for the folks that live on Lake Macatawa is go to your nearest Coast Guard station, get a federal sticker, slap it inside your kayak. It has a spot for your name, address, and phone number, so that when the Coast Guard members come up on your kayak, they know exactly who to call, the search is over, and your kayak's returned safely.
Yeah. Perfect. One last thing, I know in weather like this, it's tough, maybe for you guys to get out there. For people who really need to reach the Coast Guard, is it just a typical 911 call, or is there a specific number to reach you guys?
So that's a great question, Luke. So a lot of boaters in the past would have marine radios, and channel 16 would be your international hailing distress frequency. We're in 2019, not everybody has a radio, and some people have dinghies. The best thing you can do is just dial 911 on your cell phone. We all carry them, and 911 dispatch is so well equipped to handle those calls and to launch the nearest Coast Guard unit to you. Perfect. So great question.
Well, I appreciate you joining. Is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, sure is. Let's touch a little bit about boating while intoxicated. It's dangerous. It's no different than being on the road. The legal limit is 0.08. Me and you are out on the water, we are allowed to have a beverage, okay? We just can't be over the legal limit.
Yes.
And so let's make sure that our boaters on Lake Macatawa are just following safe guidelines out there and not boating while intoxicated.
Now, is that just the driver or is that anyone in the boat?
That's just the driver. So excellent question. The passengers are allowed to partake in beverages, the driver as well. He just can't not be over 0.08.
Okay. Sounds good, Eli. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Luke. Appreciate it.